I know what happens when you're not on your meds. I know how terribly sick a person can get.
I had night sweats, chills. I had lost 15 pounds.
And what was explained to me is once you get on medication, these symptoms will go away.
You might not always get your medication regimen right the first time, but it will work out.
You understand that now you're in treatment. It's going to get better after this. You're going to become undetectable eventually. You just have to stay consistent with that. It does take a certain accountability as well.
I am completely healthy because I've been staying on my medication since 2008, since I started.
In this episode, people living with HIV discuss the illnesses they endured before diagnosis and what they experienced upon beginning a treatment regimen, and in turn, how starting and staying on medication has dramatically changed their lives.
My HIV status came about in a very dramatic way.
Even for those who undergo frequent blood tests, oftentimes people like Noah only learn of their HIV status after falling ill.
I became very, very sick and went to the emergency room at the hospital. And it was in a flurry of pneumonia and collapsed lungs, a variety of infections like that, where I got my diagnosis. And so it almost became shouted from the rooftops in that sense, because it was such a big event to occur in a person's life.
Anthony was already aware he was HIV positive when he began to feel symptoms. But being a college student and away from home, his path to treatment was complicated.
When I was diagnosed, I felt scared in general because of just the uncertainty of whether I would live past January. I had got my diagnosis in November. Upon receiving that diagnosis, I wasn't seeing the doctor until like a month in. I felt really poorly during that time. I had night sweats, chills. I had lost 15 pounds, or 10 to 15 pounds. And I had to actually ignore these symptoms because of school. School was getting very busy, and so I was sick, but you can't really afford to be sick. And it wasn't until after I was done with finals, I looked at myself in the mirror after that Monday and realized I'm sick.
So when I was younger, I wasn't ready to start taking medication. It took so many opportunist infections for me to develop in order for me to take my care serious.
Jalov had been living with HIV since he was a teenager. Only after his health declined significantly did he take the necessary steps to stay on a treatment regimen.
The opportunist infections that I experienced because I wasn't on medication was shingles, Kaposi sarcoma, thrush, pneumonia. A laundry list of opportunist infection that really took a toll on me because I wasn't taking my medication. Once I started taking medication is when my immune system shot itself back up, I became undetectable, and I was able to live my life. But the things that I experienced was I was unhealthy. I'm a dancer, and I love to live my life on stage, and I wasn't able to do those things. I wasn't able to perform because my health was deteriorating because I wasn't on medication. So not able to live my full potential self was some of the things I experienced without taking medication. The opportunist infection wake-up call was the Kaposi sarcoma when I was diagnosed with cancer and AIDS. And I was just like, oh no, I can't deal with both. One of the things have to go. And what was explained to me is once you get on medication, these symptoms will go away. And yes, they did. I am completely healthy because I've been staying on my medication since 2008, since I started.
What should those with HIV expect when they do begin treatment? This is Erica.
When I was first diagnosed, it was just a lot to take in, but my doctor was able to provide me with information on different medications. I also did my own research to try to figure out what was good for me, but ultimately I trusted my specialist to recommend what medication would be good for me. It turned out that my first try wasn't the one, the medication I was on had a calorie intake, and I started gaining weight, and it just wasn't working for me. So I ended up switching, and now that I've switched, I've been able to handle that medication a lot better, and it's worked more with me and my lifestyle.
While Erica was recently diagnosed, Raven was born HIV positive. She's experienced the evolution of HIV medication firsthand.
Well, due to me being HIV positive, as me being growing up, I was always sick a lot, so changing medications was one of my big difficulties. I tried from liquid medications to pills, and it lead me over to like 42 pills a day, because around the 90s, that's when they only had liquid and pills. So when the liquid wasn't working for me, they transferred me over to the pills, and it was a really difficult time for me because it was just so many to take at once, and it was just hard to swallow. They was very big, and a little 6-year-old taking 42 pills a day, that was really hard for me. So it was really hard for me, and I did have to change a lot of medications as a little kid. But now that I'm an adult, I'm on 1 pill per day.
I would say that when you first start treatment, you are going to feel a little woozy, a little nauseous, maybe like fever-like symptoms. That's also good news, because the doctors in the case study told me that means that the medicine that you're taking is fighting the virus. It's killing the virus until it becomes dormant. So that's good news.
Giuliani is not only on HIV medication himself, he is also a legal advocate for those living with HIV.
The side effects for me lasted about a week to 2 weeks. I let my job know as well, because that was a concern of mine, and I had great support, great feedback. We live in a different time now, like after Philadelphia, like this isn't like that movie. Like, we have resources, we have attorneys, Lambda Legal, other organizations out there that are willing to advocate for you. So if that were to affect your job, just know for a fact that you can definitely protect yourself. You have rights. And that should be the least of your concerns, because the less you stress, the more your immune system is strong. And that's one of the main things about this, is you got to keep your immune system strong. You understand that now you're in treatment. It's going to get better after this. You're going to become undetectable eventually. You just have to stay consistent with that. It does take a certain accountability as well.
You might not always get your medication regimen right the first time. It might take some tweaking here or there, but it will work out. I didn't find the right medication for me the first time. I had to switch, which I was hesitant to do because I didn't want to switch up what I was comfortable with. But it ended up working out, and I feel great.
When beginning treatment for HIV, understanding the complex terminology used by physicians can be challenging. Here are some basics. Your CD4 cells, or T cells, are a type of white blood cell that protects you from certain infections. HIV medicines keep your CD4 count at a healthy level. Viral load is the amount of HIV virus in your blood. Here's Noah.
So when I was first diagnosed, there were a lot of terms that I was unfamiliar with, like CD4 count and viral load, undetectable. So I spent the time going online to learn about what those terms stood for. And not just the term definition, but also the numbers associated with them. What's a good CD4? What's a good viral load? And going into conversations with my provider with that information already meant that we could get that information, share it quickly, sort of like a check-in point, and then move on to other topics like long-term inflammation associated with an HIV infection, which is a topic I taught myself about and then was able to bring up with my provider because of that.
Through antiretroviral therapy, it is common for those living with HIV to become undetectable, meaning the virus, or viral load, is being kept in check to the point that a blood test would not reveal the presence of HIV.
The one thing that's really important of taking your medications is if you want to have an undetectable viral load, stay on top of your medications, have a healthy diet, and have an open dialogue with your doctor and asking your doctor, what can I do to stay undetectable? Because that's the number one goal that doctors want you to be, is undetectable. Because, but when you're undetectable, you're feeling healthy, you feel more encouraged.
And while being undetectable greatly reduces the risk of transmitting HIV to others, those with undetectable levels of HIV in their blood should still disclose their status to potential partners and continue to take precautionary measures when engaging in sexual activity. Here again is Anthony.
I was surprised at how short of time it took for me to become undetectable. Like, you take these medicines and they give you a very arbitrary number. They're not like, well, you'll be this undetectable by this and so date. So I'm just expecting like for it to take a while, but it literally just took a month. And I've heard from other people that it also only took them a month to become undetectable. So I became undetectable, and that was through consistently taking my meds. And it was really surprising in general, just like how fast it happened.
But maintaining an undetectable status requires commitment and good communication. This is Raven.
You could be undetectable and your doctor might see a little glitch of something and he might say, hey, let's switch you to this medication. Why do I need to change it? And if I'm feeling fine, hey, for you to stay undetectable, we want you to stay on this medication so your viral load and your T cell could stay the same. So, sometimes you might feel well, but your antibodies inside are having a little glitch and you don't see it, but your doctor see it because of running your lab work, running your blood work. So they might say, hey, you know what, we see that you're probably building a little resistance to this medication. Let's switch you over to this one. So when my doctor tells me, like, hey, Raven, your numbers is good, you're feeling healthy, that makes me feel proud because that makes me know that, listen, I'm Raven, you're taking your medications on a timely matter, you're having that open dialogue with your doctor, and you're staying healthy.
While advances in medication are allowing those with HIV to live healthier lives than ever before, strict adherence to their treatment regimens remains paramount. Here's more from Erica.
HIV medication, it prevents the virus from attacking your body, so you're able to live longer. You're not going to have these preventable illnesses because you're taking this medication that's able to prevent the virus from harming your immune system and other parts of your body. So medication for me means that I get more time. I'm still very young, but I'd one day like to be a mother and I'd like to be a grandmother. So taking my medication means that I'll get more time with my family to spend with them.
I know what happens when you're not on your meds. And maybe that's a strange thing to say. I feel lucky in a small way that at least in my experience, I know how terribly sick a person can get, or at least that I can get, if I'm not taking my meds. And so for someone who hasn't had that experience, I guess I could say, let me tell you what happened to me. I landed in the hospital with collapsed lungs. They had to put tubes in the side of my chest. I was there for over a month before I was stabilized enough to go home. And even after then, I still had chest tubes for several weeks after that. So there's very serious consequences to not taking my meds. And that's never far from my thoughts.
I want to live a long life, and if I can do something now to ensure that happens, I want to do it. And one way that I can is by taking my medication. I'd also like to exercise and eat healthy, wouldn't we all? But one easy way that I can do that is by just taking my daily medication.
My number one thing when it comes to anybody who's HIV positive, you have to realize that you're HIV positive and that this disease is not going anywhere. But with your engagement and care, and especially staying on your medication, you can live a long and healthy life. I didn't think I was going to be here, but I'm here now because I stayed on my medication. I shouldn't have to experience those opportunist infections, but if those were my wake-up calls, that's what it needed to be. And just take care of yourself. Take your medication every day, and it will get better.